this was that they could see that this is ready to go. I thought we were just chatting amongst ourselves, hoping this is all going fine, but no, we're here, guys, for a round two short and sharp preview stream. So, if any of you guys don't know Nicole, uh, founder, I think, of Wicky, amazing data and analytics insight. So we thought we'd do a fun little concept and start doing a bit of a short preview for the round ahead. So, Nicole, how are you going?
Yeah, good man. I just hope they're not here for expert advice because I think both me and you are ranking sort of around 50,000. So everything except for expert advice, and we're here for you guys.
Hey, don't hate on a 50,000 rank after round one. No one wins Supercoach in the first week, so that's what I'm going to tell myself. Even when it's round 26 and I'm 50,000 rank, I'll keep I'll keep holding on to that message. But no, yeah, great to be able to start doing this with you. We chatted about this for a while now in terms of wanting to do something collaborative. So it's yeah, great. And yeah, anyone watching, obviously, I'm not as polished as my normal streams, but we're going flying off the seat of our pants here.
Yep, no, I love it. And no, I think let's get straight into it. So I think the overall plan is to have a quick chat about both of our teams, captaincy options. I think we're going to talk about matchups as well, and then just end off with our plans. Is that right? Or have I missed anything?
No, yeah, pretty short and sharp. I think especially captaincy in this week seems to be a pretty good discussion point. Any particular things out of the matchups of this week, maybe a few of the trade ins and outs, just a quick summary of our thoughts on that, and yeah, what we're looking to do for our team. And of course, there you go, my home setup where my phone is completely dismantled halfway in, so we're off to a great start.
No, love it. Well, for whoever's watching, obviously you guys probably know Aman, and he's got. I often listen to you sort of like every or midweek when I'm doing my sort of fantasy and super coach analysis and stuff. It's awesome to get your insights. I would say I'm generally quite different. So like I'm a massive rugby league fan, been playing super coach and NRL fantasy for over a decade now. I definitely do, know my stuff, but my approach to the game is a little bit different. So hopefully between us, you guys get a little bit of variety. But should we sink straight into the captains? So I think Cleary, Hines, Ponga, they're the three above sort of 10%. Where are you sort of leading with these three guys so far?
Yeah, so yeah, having a quick look at it, yeah. So Cleary being the top captain, I'm a little bit surprised about that, to be honest, because I know
Mm,
Parramatta, it's a home game for Penrith, but Parramatta do always traditionally do well against Penrith. So I'm a little bit surprised with him being the most popular captain. I wonder how much of that is, you know, a more casual fan base at the beginning who, and no offense to people who put the captaincy on Cleary because he's not a bad person to put on, but I wonder if it's just, that's the name that they know. So they say, well, I know he's good, so we'll captain him. So I wonder if a little bit of that is feeding into that. But yeah, for me, I do feel Hines is the best captain this week in terms of any of the big gun players. You look at the matchup; he's playing at home. He's got a good record against the Bulldogs, and particularly when he plays at home, he's got a very good record at PointsBet. So yeah, he's definitely the one I think I'd be looking at for sure. You've got to have, I think, at least a VC or C on him at this week. I think no qualms, straight captaining. But if you've got an option to loop, I think VC is a good way to go about it as well. He does play in the second game of the round. But yeah, how are you thinking?
yeah, I was actually I promised you guys I'd give you something a little bit different. So I'm actually on Bureau of Meteorology Parramatta, checking out the weather for Parramatta in the next couple of days. And it's meant to rain. Look, there's likelihood of rain tonight and a little bit of like shower or two tomorrow. However you break this up, I think, yeah, what you mentioned around the last couple of years, if there's one team that actually does compete with Parramatta and actually beat Parramatta, it's the Eels. Sorry, Penrith. I meant to say it's the Eels. So there's that, close games historically. There's also the fact that obviously there's rain around as well. So I think for a couple of different reasons, with all things Cleary, I would just think that it's just interesting that you got Hines going up against the Dogs. Addo Carr's missing. They're going to have a little bit of reshuffle in that back line as well. And then you got Cleary who's coming up against a red hot Para who are always up for that fight against Penrith. So yeah, definitely lean with you. I'm just a bit intrigued that Hines are noticeably higher in the captaincy and VC percentages.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think of course we want to do things a bit different here. Weather is a big component of how we assess the footy games, and I know certain people in the not necessarily in the audience, but in the social media space, love to comment on with Nico Hines's wet hair games and the fact that he performs wet or dry pretty good. Uh, Looking at the weather, it does look pretty good. It looks mostly cloudy on Friday, so you think he's probably going to have fine conditions to at least score a minimum 100. You look at Sunday though, captaincy options as well this week, and I think a lot of people are
Yeah.
going on how good he looked in Vegas. I'm still doing and frying between him and Ponga as my captain. I've got the VC firmly locked on Hines. Light rain forecasted for Sunday afternoon. Part of me thinks light rain is not enough for me to go against Turbo if you've got a good feel
But, mm,
anyway. So, and I'm a Roosters fan, so I've probably got a little bit of bias here as well. But I'd like to think that we're not going to leak more than 20, 25 points.
yeah.
So that's probably one of the couple of things that's making me not lean towards Turbo at the moment. I've currently got it on Ponga captaincy, but what do you think about Turbo this week as a captaincy
Yeah,
shout?
I'm pretty much spot on. I usually love to offer like a differing opinion, but I think you nailed two things there. Again, like Manly versus the Roosters, closer game in Sydney, chance a little bit of rain around. And I think my mentality was similar in Vegas as well. Like generally when you've got two good teams, and I think with Turbo Manly are most likely a top 8 team. We've got two good teams potentially in the wet playing early in the season. Your mind just goes towards defense. Whereas on the flip side, I think the Cowboys and the Knights are both like fringe top 8 teams. I won't commit to they're top 8 or they're bottom 4 or whatever. But if you've got two fringe top 8 teams and you're playing in North Queensland at 5:30 p.m., pretty much in perfect weather, I think Ponga is like the more, I guess, like realistic or sort of mainstream option, and I wouldn't be able to talk anyone out of that. I had actually settled on Hines VC Ponga captain myself, but if you had to slightly go a little bit outlandish, if you do believe the Cowboys are back to their 2022 form, and you have Scotty Drinkwater, which I actually do, that's the out there option, I reckon. If you think the Cowboys are back to 2022, and if you're down on the Knights after their round one performance, that's not how I like to play it. I actually like to think that the Cowboys aren't going to be as good as they were last week, and the Knights won't be as bad. But that's like the real sort of risky option, I reckon, going like a Scotty Drinkwater against the Knights.
Well, this is the thing. I think this is why I like the VC captaincy, the VC on Hines, because I think he looks a standout. But if you're able to run a loop with him, and he goes maybe say 70 points, and you want to then go with the captaincy, the field then really is wide open. You've got Ponga, you've got Turbo, you've got Drinkwater. Anyone who's got Lomax, potentially traded him in this week. He's got a good matchup against the Dolphins. Like it does feel pretty spread out after Hines. So I think this is a good week where kind of you could just go with your gut a little bit more. Now Hines obviously I think is the best, but as I say, I think if you've got that ability to loop, I do like that flexibility and the other options. I think Drinkwater was a very unlucky to only score sub 50 last week. Like the Cowboys scored 40 plus points, and he at the very end, if Carl holds onto that ball, we're looking at a 65 plus score from Drinkwater. So that's another thing. Don't look at that score and think he's not like he was fine. The matchup wasn't there for him, but I do think that there are points in that game, which is another reason why I'm thinking Ponga as well. Ex team, I know it's a long time ago, but it was his former club. I like
Yeah.
the fact that he's goal kicking. 50 points when, in all honesty, the Knights look pretty awful in attack. Like, I think there's only room to grow there. So I think I'm talking myself into captaincy Ponga and VC Hines at the moment. It all could be over by tomorrow. It could all be Hines goes 150 and we all just try to do a loop on him anyway, but still fun to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, well, one thing that I definitely had in mind that is a little bit different to I think most. I think I'm just looking at the nice little segue into the traded out numbers. I'm looking at Spencer Leniu, 23,000 teams have traded him out, 14% of SuperCoach teams. Funnily enough, I'm actually keeping him in my team just for one more week, and that is because of the Heinz VC. If I don't end up using it, I'll probably try to. I think the Roosters are playing later in the week, so I probably will trade letting you out. But just for now, I've got him in my team. And one last note I'll say on the Cowboys. We were talking about Ponga and Drinkwater. We've got someone in the comments actually mentioning Holmes. They've mentioned that Holmes scored over 100 points last week without a try. I think that's a really interesting one. I think if you're on that boat of the Cowboys, I'm going to back in their round one performance and I'm going to go. The Knights aren't as good as everyone thinks, at least to start off. Ponga had a freakish run and maybe they'll take a few weeks to get into it. Their spine's a bit of a mess. If you sort of believe all like that narrative, then Val Holmes, if he did crack 100 without a try, obviously a ton of conversions, But again, dry track in North Queensland, Holmes could be a real pot option. Both Holmes and Drinkwater are both 3% captain and both 1% vice captain. So yeah, that would be the massive pot option.
Just interesting looking at, of course, we want to do this. Townsville weather on Saturday. It does look like scattered thunderstorms, light thunderstorms and rain. So it could actually be a rainy game. So that's maybe another thing. So maybe it's just a case. Hopefully, Hines just goes huge, and then this
Yeah,
decision gets taken out of our hands. But yeah, I think big watch on weather this week.
that's right.
Obviously, don't want to
It's
run
good to
too
look
much
that
into
up.
it, but yeah, you can spin the narrative however you want. But yeah, Ponga more slippery, more tackle busts, or more grind of a game. But yeah, we're getting a few comments here saying we need to interact with the comments. I must say, just as a FYI to everyone, this is the first time ever live streaming off my phone and with someone else. And I've seen some couple of things about my internet. I am just praying that we make through the whole thing without any lags or anything like that. So apologies if I'm not directly answering the comments as much, but this is the only reason why. If they come up there and
Yeah.
we've got something to talk about, we'll definitely mention it. But yeah, that's really the main reason, guys. And I've seen the comments about I need to get rid of the hair. It looks very messy at the moment. That's why I've got the hat on. So apologies, guys. You can see it a little bit
Yeah,
any other time, not just now.
yeah. I think you're a couple of years younger than me. I'm just
One thing I
hanging on
wanted
to
to pick
whatever
up.
I've got left.
That's it. One of the things you actually mentioned about Spencer Lenu, I'm actually looking at doing the exact same thing. So, front or forward, we'll quickly touch on it because it is a very popular topic this week as well. Who are the options outside of Terrell May, who, I mean, in my opinion, I think is very close to a must trade in, not necessarily this week if you've got other playable options, but I think come next week, he will be someone a lot of people will want to get. So if you do want to just get him in this week's and free yourself up 3 more trades next week if you decide to use a boost, I like going for Terrell May this week. Um, Outside of him, though, the replacements like Flegler, Corey Jensen, who plays tonight, maybe cheaper like a Josh Kerr, Jacob Saifidi, even from the Knights, like they're all have they all have question marks because a lot of inflated minutes from last week. So I'm actually hoping that Hines goes big because then if I can go VC, I've got a captaincy on Lenu as my non-player. If Hines goes big, I will just keep Spencer Lenu for a week. I'll chuck the armband on him, and we get the Hines points. And I don't even have to drop any of my other reserves as well. That's the big benefit for me this week. I don't have to do that thing where you normally in a VC loop drop a reserve. The way my team is set up this week, I can avoid that. So so I think there's probably a good scenario I think to discuss here. I think if Hines goes big, let's call it 130 plus, and we take the loop, I think obviously that's an easy decision. Nicole, what would you do though if Hines goes 70 and you can't run that loop? Are you still thinking of keeping Lenu this week, or do you think you'll try to move him on to someone else?
So my team is built a little bit oddly. I've got my front row as a Tamalolo, Lenu, Fletcher Baker, and Sam Hughes. So I did not spend that much money there, and I've stuffed up. So I think I would potentially have to go. I'm just trying to think. I've got money. I don't. I don't have enough money to go from Lenu to May in one trade. So honestly, I'm a little bit stuck. So I don't know what I do. I think if there's anyone that I really like and I can afford to go lend you to that player in one trade, I would definitely look at it. But I don't even have any dual position second rollers that I could put up. So if there's someone I could afford, yes, I would. Otherwise, I think I'd still hold on to the trade just because, like, I don't want to use 2 trades. I loved your suggestion about using the boost next round, and I will almost definitely be doing that. But I don't want to trade for trading sake. So I might have to hold on to lend you and just sort of make a wise decision with 3 trades next week. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think if Hines doesn't go big, like I was kind of looking at Josh Kerr earlier in the week, but then also, there were some inflated minutes in that Dolphins pack from last week. So thinking about it a little bit more, like what is the value of a trade? If I trade him this week, instead of playing so my 2 backup front row forwards are Sam Hughes and Liam Henry. But I'm a little bit more confident in actually playing just due to the makeup of the bench of the Panthers. I've also seen some late mail that Dane Laurie is expected to come into that 17 for the Penrith Panthers. So I wonder if he's coming in for the Sonny Luke position or something else. But I can't imagine if it would be him and Sonny Luke on the bench. I mean, if that was the case, I would actually probably be happy to just play Liam Henry because that bench would be very light for the Panthers.
Mhm.
Different situation if Dan Laurie comes in for Liam Henry, obviously. But yeah, I'm leaning more and more, I think, towards just not even because I just don't know who I want. And that
Yeah.
trade can be so much more useful next week if I've all of a sudden got an extra week and think I've got so much more certainty about someone else. Then I've got that confidence to do that trade next week in addition to 2 other moves. So, and I think I'm pretty happy with the rest of my team makeup. So I do feel like I can afford to maybe make that saving this week. So I do think even if Hines doesn't go huge and I need to keep Lenu this week, I think I'll probably just roll out one of Liam Henry or Sam Hughes and probably just decide the captaincy after that. But yeah, guys, I think that's probably our take on front row Tyrell May. We really just don't know, and you are kind of guessing, I think, this week. So we're kind of actually both saying we're okay to play one of our bench props if we have to, just to get that extra information. So that's kind of how we're going about it. Obviously, do that what you will, but yeah, that's kind of just the nature of the front row forward. Low upside position, we just don't know at the moment.
Awesome. Well, what I might do, I'll just very quickly rattle off the 10 most traded out and traded in players. I might just get your 2 cents very quickly on anything that stands out there, and I'll do the same. So, in terms of traded out, no surprises. Leniu, 8-game suspension. Arrow, at least a month out due to injury. Palacia, Fermor, Tamalolo, Kotrich, who's been dropped. Mam, Dylan Lucas, who's injured for at least this week. Adokar, again, injured just at least this week. The coach has said he should be back next week, which is surprising. And Piakuro got the HIA early in the first round game in Vegas. Any thoughts on the top 10 traded out guys?
Piakura, number 10. That one is interesting. So most of those guys that you mentioned either had injuries or underperforming. Well, maybe I might just jump back up to Bofemo after, but do want to comment on Piakura. He was actually second for a long time this week, but he's now moved down to 10. So obviously a lot of people are keeping him this week. But yeah, I just don't see really the need to sell him this week because, he had that one HIA game. It's going to drop out of his rolling average as the first score. And also, I like the matchup this week tonight. So we're looking at Tallis Duncan on the edge for the Rabbitohs. We're looking at Ilias. We're looking at Isaiah Tass and then Jacob Gagai, although it does look like Gagai could potentially drop out for Tane Milne. But basically what we're looking at a winger and centre who have not played with each other yet. We're looking at Lockie Ilias, and we're looking at a new edge back rower who's fairly new to his NRL career. So I'm liking that edge, like I can see if you're a Reece Walsh owner, we haven't even talked about Latrell or Reece Walsh, but I can see we saw Reece Walsh doing a lot last game against the Roosters, really going down that right-hand side, so his left-hand side attack, because Selwyn Cobbo's there, Jesse Arthur's there as well. Like, I can see someone like Puka benefiting a lot from this matchup this week, so I think the narrative on him could be a complete 180. So he's definitely one who I'd be looking to hold on to. I think there is potentially a good point as well. In terms of the other sales, we won't comment on the injury affected guys, and I think Ezra Mam as well feels like a fairly sensible move on. I never really liked him as well, to be fair, he's playing against that same edge I just talked about, but he's very attacking stat and try line. Around a similar price, Luke Brooks seemed to be potentially looking as a good option based on his Vegas performance. Maybe not a must move this week because of that good matchup, but I can see people in the long term moving on Ezra Mam. The interesting ones, I think, both Fermor and Palacia. So, quick thoughts on them. I think both Fermor is a good option if he's playing on the left with Kieran Foran. If he plays on the right, so neither of those two things. I still think he's solid. He's probably more likely to drop 10 points in average, in my opinion, and I suspect him to be around 55. But if he's your only way to get in someone like a Terrell May, free up money, I think he's okay to sacrifice because I think the Foran is supposed to be back in round 3, but there's no certainty on it. Fafita, Gold Coast Titans have put some clips up of him looking really good, so he may be due back fairly soon as well. I think enough things that I could look to him to say probably okay to move on if he's only going for Terrell May or money making. If neither of those two things though, I think again suggestion is hold and get the extra week of information.
Yep, no, that's fair. I don't think I've got any counterpoints. Largely agree with that. I might just quickly rattle off the traded in guys. We'll get your sort of opinion on that, and then we'll move forward. So Terrell May, 12%, 20,000 teams. Can't argue with that. We got Terrell May, Zach Labour, who scored 1 try. Did he score 2 or did he set the second one up?
No, he scored 2 because that second try was a penalty try, which I think was also again. This is actually probably worth mentioning. 103 points, but in my opinion, that was a pretty generous penalty try. If he doesn't get that, we're looking at still a decent score. Granted, it's in the 80s, but we're not looking at 100 plus. So that's just another.
No, 100%. So Terrell May, Labour, Ben Trebojevic, Morgan Smithies, Tom Flegler, Josh Kerr, Fatala Mariner, Jacob Gagai, Lachlan Galvin, and Taylor May. Those are the top 10. I'll let you go first. Anyone that you find interesting in that top 10 traded in?
Well, one number 8, Jacob Gagai, I think people are gonna have to reverse trades on that soon because I'm getting some things filtering through to me that look like he's not gonna be in the 17 tonight, which is
Yeah.
a very disappointing result because I do have him in my team, but I was never gonna play him anyway this week, but hoping for a good cash cow. That dream could be over all of a sudden. So that's probably a quick trade, reverse trade, I think, on that one. Uh, the two May brothers kind of bookending number 1 and number 10, Terrell and Talon. Those are two guys who I think I'm very comfortable for you to trade in this week. Again, someone like Bo Fermor via duels. If you're doing Fermor to Taylor May, I think that's a pretty reasonable move because Taylor May, in my eyes, looked really good and good Panthers team. I think he's one of those guys who I'd say is pretty close to a must. One of those trades to like just get your team sorted. I think so. I think those two guys pretty easy moves. Might throw it to you. What do you think about Lockie Galvin as the ninth most traded in player?
Yep, so I'll rattle off a couple, including Galvin, which I don't think are wise. So, firstly, with Galvin, he's 204K at 5'8". I think the only reason I would say that that is okay is if you really need that trade down to go trade up somewhere to fix your team. If you think you've massively stuffed up your team and you're trading like a 4 or 500K 5'8" guy down to a Galvin so you can clean up a second rower or maybe like a Lenu up to Terrell May, for example, then I think it's okay. But I don't see why there's any point of you don't have to get in Galvin for his first game when you got Caesar on the bench. So I think that's a really important point. Wait and watch unless you absolutely have to you need that money essentially. Gagai, as I just alluded to, will most likely be dropping out of the team, so do not trade him in. Watch out for the 1 hour team update, which will be at 7 p.m. Sydney time in about an hour and a half from now. Fatala Mariner was excellent last week, set up that first try for Terrell Sloan, but he's on the bench, and they've still got James Salah and I think one more forward to come. It's gonna be a logjam Dragons forward pack, so I'd be wary of trading him in unless last minute he gets that starting second row spot over Luch Landua. But again, Landua could get that spot next week. So I'd be really wary of Vitala Mariner. Flegler and Kerr both scored tries last week, but Kerr is a bench forward. I just really don't understand that trading. Whereas Flegler, he could be a good pick generally with Tommy Gilbert out for the season. He could get a bit more in terms of minutes, and you're going to get a nice little price ride because of that try early. So I kind of understand that. Josh Kerr as a bench forward, I really don't. So that'd be my sort of opinions on most of those guys.
Yeah, no, I think you've nailed it on the head with him, with pretty much all of that. Josh Kerr, like I know he scored the try. I'm still kind of interested in him just because he did play 40 minutes and got 49, so at least showed good work rate. But again, the question mark is the 40 minutes his norm, or was that just due to what happened during the game with Connolly, Lemuelu, and Ray Stone as well? But yeah, I think I agree. Like I have started with Lockie Galvin, but as a trade in this week, I think it's not probably the wisest. I think you've got luckily until you've got round 4 for your Tigers players. Same with Tallis Duncan as well, because they didn't play last week. So you've got a little bit extra. You've got an extra week basically to have to make a move for price change purposes. So yeah, I think no, I pretty much agree with your take as well on the top
Yep.
ins and
And just
outs.
Yep, just really quickly, sorry on the Dolphins. They're packed this week in terms of the middle forwards. Jesse Bromwich, Flegler, Max Platt, and then their bench is Josh Kerr, Kenny Bromwich, Mark Nichols, Jared Wallace. Like, there's no way in hell Josh Kerr is getting 40 minutes in that pack. I think roughly 30 minutes is realistic, and obviously he's not scoring a try every week. Yeah, good luck if you do trade it in.
And look, on Tuesday I was keen, but that's because I was just like floundering around for any good front row forward and
Mm,
looking at because it freed up money, which I think I'm going to want next week just to give myself some flexibility.
yeah,
But I think now with this take of, when I kind of realized that I could do this Lenu loop option, and even if Heinz doesn't go big, I think I'm just going to keep for a week and just look to sell him next week. I guess the only risk is that if the picture is still unclear next week, then I think we just have to take a punt. But at least we've got 2 weeks of information. So I feel like we're going to
yeah,
get some level of clarity, hopefully next week. And you never know, could be other injuries and stuff. And all of a sudden, Leny's not expensive. He's 330K. If he has to sit in your bench for 1 or 2 weeks, it's not the worst outcome in the world. But yeah, I think that we've covered off the captaincy, top ins and outs. We've pretty much talked about our moves this week already in terms of what we're doing. The clarity, I did Jai Arrow to Terrell May. Like, that was an easy move. Arrow's out for at least the next 4 to 5 weeks. Could be longer than that if he does decide to take surgery. But to me, that's a very straightforward move. And then, yeah, holding the second trade, I think, for the time being. VC Hines, captaincy, I'd say 60-40 Ponga versus Turbo, but honestly, that one could change in 5 minutes. Like, that one is just completely up in the air, but I like that Ponga is goal kicking, and it's his ex-team, and I think just that matchup, I feel like, is more likely to have points than the Manly Roosters one. That's just a couple of factors at the moment that's making me lean slightly towards KP.
No, 100%. And I promise from next week we will have more differing opinions. I think we're ranked within about 10 points of each other. We've agreed on most things. I promise you this won't continue on for the season. And we'll obviously aim to get to a lot more of the comments. It's been awesome to see some of the feedback. I think we've almost got half an hour and our plan was 20 minutes. So maybe just we can get back to just a couple of the comments real quick, and then we can call it and let people play around with their trades before the Souths Bronco or the Bronco Souths game at Suncorp tonight. I think a couple of the guys are mentioning him, like Fermor and Fafita and stuff. So just to give you the update on what's being talked about, this isn't confirmed. So the Titans have the bye this week. There's been footage, as I'm alluded to, of David Fafita and Jaden Campbell in and around training, sort of sprinting and all the rest of it, and Foreign as well, who should return from a calf. So theoretically, if all three of them are back, you've got that left edge of Kieran Foreign. He's their main playmaker on the left edge. Potentially, like Fermor played there 2 seasons ago, and David Fafita played there a lot of last year. So the big one is to figure out who the hell's there. But regardless, if you do want David Fafita, there's no harm in holding, right? They've got 2 or 3 key players come back from injury. Hopefully, Jaden Campbell returning as well. I think you definitely wait and watch. There's no urgency to bring him straight up. If you need to trade Fermor, as we spoke about before, feel free to do so to open up other things. But you only got to wait a week. And so if you've got nothing pressing, it might be nice to see, holy crap, if Foreign and Fermor are lining up on the left edge together and the Titans do get a little bit of form, they've got a decent buy, I think, from around 3 onwards, or at least around 4 onwards. So you should see that combination gel. That'd be my 2 cents on the guys asking about Fermor or Fafita.
Yeah, for sure. Like, these guys aren't must trade outs, that's for sure. Like, I mean, look, you look at the Titans run coming up, it is good. Bulldogs in round 3, Dolphins round 4, Cowboys round 5, Canberra round 6. Like,
There you go.
score points. I think they just had a pretty off night. It's yeah, seeing some comments about my hair, you guys. You can see the hair. Look, it's all messy and stuff. So look, but yeah, a couple of other things. There was one about Jamal Fogarty, which I wanted to quickly highlight as well. Thoughts on him as an in price until you want to trade up to your big guns. So I just have a look. So he scored 3 last week, which kind of went under. Of additional ups in him to make money. So, like, I'm not sure if you're asking about as a trade in to then trade out, but if you're looking at him as a stepping stone, I don't love it just because of, I think he's at value. I don't think he's going to make a lot more money. Whereas someone like a Sam Walker, I think he's just going to be more upside playing in a better team, but he's also got a tough draw. But yeah, just probably not super keen. I think on Fogarty, I think he's a solid 55 to 60 guy, but probably not much more than that. A couple of comments, me being glitchy. Yeah, apologies, guys. My internet. Actually, Optus, who I'm with, told me that the network works that they're doing is extended till the end of this month, which I was very annoyed about. So yeah, I think that's probably the cause of my internet.
Yep. I'll just very quickly say, so I'll butt in about Fogarty there. So I don't have him in my team. I'm not considering trading him in. But as you mentioned at the start, so I run Wicky, sports analytics company. I do this stuff all day, every day, all things rugby league, not just SuperCoach, fantasy, but a bunch more. One thing on Fogarty, just be really careful of getting sucked in by one performance. Remember what everyone, including myself, I actually love the Raiders, but honestly, I thought they were a bottom 4 squad, and I still think the same. They've got a gun forward pack, they've got a couple of good players in their backs, but if I thought they were a bottom 4 squad last week, one performance against a Knights team, which just didn't show up, honestly, I don't think that changes my opinion or doesn't change my opinion of Fogarty. He had a good game. The Raiders were great. We know that they have a good forward pack. But just if you agreed with me and you thought that the Raiders weren't going to have a good season, don't let one performance change your opinion. Is all I'll say about Jamal Fogarty. And to be honest, a couple of the other players here, you've told me, don't get sucked into round 1. It's just 1 week. It's okay.
Yep. No, agree. Couple of things saying my hair caused the lag. Sorry about that, guys. See, this is why I wore the cap. Salmon or Tuapiki as 4th centre wing. Now this is interesting actually because Salmon has got the Sharks tomorrow, but then Tuapicki's got the Melbourne Storm. I think I'd prefer Tuapicki just because I think I prefer the fullback. Like he showed really good work rate last week, so I think we know that he's safe for a 40. I think that matchup against the Storm is not going to be all that bad for the Warriors. Like they generally have a good rivalry, but the Warriors. I think the thing from last week was that they had a really good first half, but just weren't able to quite get over the line. And the second half, obviously, Sharks were much better. I can see the Warriors still at least putting up, 18 points against the Storm. Maybe bold thing to say, given that Penrith scored 0 and they're Penrith. But I think I prefer Tuapicki. He feels a bit more safe to me at getting you 40, 45. And also, I love the hat. I'm getting the hat back.
Yeah, I just thought if you're going to take yours off, I'll put mine on. It's not like everyone's here for my hair. So, just very
Let's go
quickly
back.
on Tuapicki, I would say he did look great in person. I'm not sure if the question was to play him or to trade him in. If it was to play him, fair enough. What you said is definitely valid. If anyone is considering potentially trading him in, there was chat about CNK, Nickel Klokstad, being out for a longer duration, but there was a report I read just today in the late mail that he's all good for that round 4 return in all likelihood. So if you're playing him, fair enough, he did look good. But do not be, I wouldn't recommend trading him in because he likely only gets that one price rise in round 3, and then he's likely gone for CNK back in the team. And there was one more comment that I saw that was quite interesting, but I have that's like current. So I heard one of the other podcasts, it might have been SC Play or one of the others, mentioned that if Current keeps playing middle forward from the bench, it's highly unlikely that he actually gets that dual position. I mean, I'm not sure if you know something that I don't, but unless he gets named in the middle to start, if he's off the bench, there are quite a few players that aren't sort of correctly labeled. So I wouldn't be sort of hanging my hopes on a dual position, Josh Curran.
Look, I own Curran, and I would love nothing more than for him to get the second row forward, front row forward duel. But yeah, as Nicole said, it's probably slightly unlike or hopeful because even if he's coming off the bench playing a middle role, that could easily be also just called as playing a lock role, which is in Supercoach considered 2RF. So hard to comment on what Supercoach will do, but yeah, really hope that he gets a duel. Actually, a question from Supergun, which was about who'll get duel and should we bring it in for price rises? Again, with Current, I would like to see again another week of minutes if you're a non-owner because we had Josh Adekago in the Bulldogs matchup and then moved to centre. That meant that Current, I think, played a little bit more minutes than what we thought in the middle. If he plays 60 minutes, though, coming off the bench, like if the plan is misses the first 20 and then plays the rest of the game out from the bench, I think he's a great option because I've always said in the preseason, I think he's a really Supercoach friendly player, likes to tackle bust, offload. Like last week, the Bulldogs didn't really have much quality ball. He still ended up getting 50.
No, so I think there's a little bit of a
Can you still
glitch.
hear me okay?
Yeah, you just cut out for a sec. I think we're pretty much we've covered most of what we wanted to. I think in terms of the questions, guys, I've got to say it's been really fun doing this with Aman, but it's been really cool to actually see a bunch of questions. So I think next time what we'll do is we'll shoot through our bit a little bit quicker and leave more time for questions. It's also, as Aman mentioned, he's doing it on his phone for the first time and doing it with someone else for the first time. So we'll be a lot more organized from our end going forward. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Aman, to do this. You guys know Aman talks NRL SuperCoach. You know where to find him. But with me, if you just Google Wicky Linktree, I do stuff whether it's written or podcast content for all things NRL SuperCoach, NRL Fantasy, NRL tipping, punting, etc. And also cover a little bit of cricket, AFL, NFL, and NBA. So all things sport at Wicky. But yeah, been a blast doing this, Aman, and I'm keen to do this more regularly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's good. And yeah, guys, definitely check out the Cool's content on Wiki. It's a great platform, and he's also just recently started, I think, being associated with Supercoach Gun on Twitter with his try map, which I think honestly, it's such a simple thing, but I feel like it's one of the most valuable things on a weekly basis. Just to see, I like the thing that me and Nicole talk about most often. Generally, is about matchups. Like, what are the best matchups of the week to target? He's got data and analytics behind it with his punting. He's got that kind of angle behind it as well. But then with Supercoach Guns, you get that visual of this is exactly what you want to see. So, like, yeah, for sure, follow Nicole. He's got some great content. And yeah, it was a blast, and hopefully we can keep doing this moving forward. Cool. I think I might have to end it there though, because my phone is probably about to die, and the internet is who knows. But it's been a blast. I'll end it there. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and yeah, we'll try to make it a bit more interactive next time as we try to kind of get this to be a little bit more slick.
Yeah, good luck with your trades, everyone. Enjoy the weekend of footy.
Cool. Cheers, guys. Bye.